create and edit panoramic images. Create and edit panoramic images. How to create and edit panoramic images with Photomerge. So what about Photomerge? About Photomerge here now. The Photomerge, by the way, command combines several photographs into one continuous image. For example, you can take 5 overlapping photographs of a city skyline and then merge them into a panorama. And the Photomerge command can assemble photos that are tiled horizontally as well as vertically. Like this screenshot now. This image now explained for you. Source images and completed Photomerge composition button. And take pictures for Photomerge. How to take pictures for Photomerge? By the way, your source photographs play a large role in panoramic compositions, and to avoid problems, follow these guidelines when taking pictures for use with Photomerge. We have options here now. So what about overlap images sufficiently? Overlap images sufficiently is meaning images should overlap by approximately 40%. If the overlap is less, Photomerge may not be able to automatically assemble the panorama. However, keep in mind that the image shouldn't overlap too much, by the way. And if images overlap by 70% or more, Photomerge may not be able to blend the images and try to keep the individual photos at least somewhat distanced from each other. So what's the meaning of use one focal length? Use one focal length is meaning if you use a zoom lens, don't change the focal length in way and zoom in or out. And while taking your pictures. And what's the meaning of keep the camera level? Keep the camera level is meaning also Photomerge can process slight rotations between pictures and a tilt or of more than a few degrees can result in errors when the panorama is assembled. And you can use a tripod with a rotating head. It helps maintain camera alignment and viewpoint. So what's the meaning of stay in the same position? Stay in the same position is meaning you can try not to change your position as you take a series of photographs, and so that the pictures are from the same viewpoint, by the way, and using the optical viewfinder with the camera held close to the eye helps keep the viewpoint consistent. Or try using a tripod to keep the camera in the same place. So what's the meaning of avoid using distortion lenses? Avoid using distortion lenses is meaning distortion lenses can interfere with Photomerge. And however, the auto option adjusts for images taken with fisheye lenses. And what's the meaning of maintain the same exposure? Maintain the same exposure is meaning avoid using the flash in some pictures or not in others. And the blending the features in Photomerge helps smooth out different exposures, but extreme differences make alignment difficult. And some digital cameras change exposure setting automatically as you take pictures, and so you may need to check your camera setting to be sure that all the images have the same exposure. So how to create a Photomerge composition? How to create a Photomerge composition? We have steps. Step number 1. You should choose file, then choose automate, then choose Photomerge. Step number 2. Under source file. Under source files in the Photomerge dialog box, you should choose one of the following from the use menu. We have files and folders, 2 options. In this point, in point number 2, we have 2 options here, files and folders. Files is meaning generates the Photomerge composition using individual files. And folders is meaning uses all the images stored in a folder to create the Photomerge composition. Step number 3, specify which images to use by doing one of the following. We have options to select the image file or a folder of images. You should click the browser button and navigate to the files or folders. After that, to use the images currently open in Photoshop, you should click Add Open Files. And after that, to remove images from the source file list, you should select the file and click the remove button. Step number 4. Select a layout option. Select a layout option. How to select layout options? We have options here. We have auto and perspective and cylindrical. And auto is meaning Photoshop analyzes and the source image and applies either a perspective. And cylindrical is meaning and spherical layout, depending on which produces a better Photomerge. And perspective is meaning creates a constant composition by designating one of the source images, by default the middle edge image, and as the reference image. The other images are then transformed, by the way, and repositioned and stretched or skewed as necessary, and so that overlapping content across layers is matched, by the way. And cylindrical is meaning reduces the booty distortion that can occur with the perspective layout by displaying individual images as on unfolded cylinder, and overlapping content across file is still matched, by the way. And the reference image is placed at the center and best suited for creating wide panoramas like these images. We have A and P, and applying cylindrical mapping. So what about spherical? Spherical is meaning that aligns and transforms the images as if they were for mapping the inside of a sphere, and which simulates the experience of viewing a 360-degree panorama. And if you have taken a set of images that cover 360 degrees, you can use this for 360-degree panoramas, and you might also use spherical to produce nice panoramic results with other file sets. So what's the meaning of college? College is meaning that aligns the layers and matches overlapping content and transforms and rotate and or scale and any of the source layers. And what's the meaning of reposition? Reposition is meaning aligns the layers and matches overlapping content and but doesn't transform and stretch or skew and any of the source layers. Step number 5. Select any of the following options. We have options here. Blend images together. So what's the meaning of blend images together? Its meaning finds the optimal borders between the images and creates themes based on those borders, and color matches the images, and with blend images together, turn it off. A simple rectangular blend is performed, by the way. This may be preferable if you intend to retouch the blending masks by hand. So what about Vigente? Vigente removal. Vigente removal is meaning removes and performs exposure compensation in the images that have darkened edges caused by lens follows or improper lens shading. So what's the meaning of geometric distortion correction? Geometric distortion correction is meaning compensates for barrel and benchon of fisheye distortion. So what's the meaning of content aware? Fill transparent area. It's meaning seamlessly fill the transparent area with similar image content nearby. Then number 6, click OK. And Photoshop creates one multi-layer image, by the way, from the source images, and adding layer masks as needed to create optimal blending where the images overlap. And you can edit the layer masks or add adjustment layers to further fine-tune the different areas of the panorama. And to replace empty area around image borders, you can use a content aware fill, and you can use content aware pattern or history fills. And how to create 360-degree panoramas. How to create 360-degree panoramas in Photoshop. By the way, devices such as the Ricoh Theta V and Insta 360. One lets you capture full 360 panorama panoramic images in a single take. And alternatively, you can combine Photomerge with 3D features to create a 360-degree panorama. And first you stitch together the images to create a panorama, and then you use the spherical panorama command to wrap the panorama so it's continuous. And be sure to photograph a full circle of images with sufficient overlap, and photographing with a pano head on a tripod helps produce better results. We have steps here now again. Step number 1, you should choose file, then choose automate, then choose Photomerge. Step number 2, in the Photomerge dialog box, add the images you want to use, and don't include images that cover the top thinness or bottom nadir of the skin. And you will add these images, by the way, later. And step number 3, select spherical for the layout. And if you photographed with a fisheye lens, select the auto layout and geometric distortion correction. And if Photoshop cannot automatically identify your lens, download the free Adobe Lens Profile Creator from the Adobe website. Step number 4, optional. You should select Vigilante removal or geometric distortion for the lens correction. Step number 5, optional again. You should select content aware, fill transparent areas to avoid transparent pixels on the edges of the panoramic image. And after that, number 6, click OK. And number 7, choose 3D, then choose new shape from layer, then choose spherical panorama. And step number 8, optional again, manually add the top and bottom images into the sphere, and you could also paint out any remaining transparent pixels in the 3D spherical panorama layer. And how to edit panoramas. By the way, how to edit panoramas. Introduced in the October 2017 release of Photoshop CC, you can edit acquire rectangular spherical panoramas in Photoshop, and with the panorama asset imported and its layer selected, invoke the panoramic viewer by choosing 3D, then choose spherical panorama, then choose new panorama layer from selected layer, and alternatively directly load a spherical panorama from your system into the viewer by selecting 3D, then select spherical panorama, then import panorama. And once you have opened a panorama in the viewer, you can actually perform a variety of operations on it. And how to rotate the camera view around. We have steps. Photoshop lets you, by the way, adjust the camera view for your panoramic image. And you have steps here now. Step number 1, you should select Move tool. Number 2, click and drag in the view to look around inside the panoramic image. Like this screenshot. We have panoramic image here now. Rotate the camera view using the Move tool in Photoshop. And adjust the field of view. The properties panel, by the way, in Photoshop displays the camera properties here, and you can also adjust the field of view of the camera in mm as in a 35 meter camera or degrees. And you can also click and drag, and the axis Y controls available in the lower left corner of the document window in Photoshop to rotate the camera without switching back to the Move tool, like this image now. Adjust the field of view using the axis widget control. And paint on the how to paint on the panorama. If you'd like to paint of the panorama, how to paint on the panorama. By the way, you can use the painting and adjustment tools available in Photoshop, such as the healing brush and the spot healing brush, to edit the panorama, and filters work only on the visible portion of the panorama, and accordingly it's recommended that you isolate the image outside the 3D view to apply the filters to your panoramic image. And the workflow given below uses the spot healing brush tool and as the example. We have steps. Step number 1, you should choose file, then choose open and select the name of the file you want to open. Step number 2, you should choose 3D and choose spherical panorama and new panorama layer from selected layer. Step number 3, you should select the spot healing brush tool and ensure that projection is selected actually as a paint system in the properties panel. Step number 4, click the area you want to fix or click and drag to smooth over imperfections in a larger area, and for details see retouch with the spot healing brush tool. And note and be careful in this point now. To improve the quality and performance while painting your panoramic image, you should create a new layer firstly above the panoramic layer, and after editing this layer, by the way, you can choose the merge down option from the layers panel menu or press Ctrl and Command plus E. And to apply filters to the entire panorama, double click the layer titled spherical map in the layers panel and edit as desired, and then save the file, and the image automatically gets updated in the spherical layout.